recording. This is part 2, talking about Psalms 81, verse 5. But just to say, we spent all part 1 talking about what? Talking about that the ALef Tav is a consciousness of who is Yahuwah, what is his plan, what is he going to do, and how are we participant in it with mind and heart, belief and action, knowing what the 22 letters are and being aware not only the meaning of each letter individually, but as the sworn oath of relationship and the 22 letters written in their narrative sequence order. That's knowing the ALef Tav. And what I'm saying is that once we know the ALef Tav, then we can read, like, just even the word Jacob is like, he promised us a future. When the bad guys are pounding their chest, threatening what they're going to do, it's like we can have a war cry, of a ringing cry, a shout of joy, singing of the fortress of splendor that Yahweh is for his people Israel. It doesn't matter what these guys are saying. Verse 5, because chok, command unto Israel, it is. What is? Blowing the shofar? When did he tell us to blow the shofar? Besides, whenever you're doing something he says to do, he said to blow it on the first day of the 7th month. That was the command, which the Christian church doesn't acknowledge. Other religions don't acknowledge, and the Jews do, but I don't know of anybody else that makes it a big deal other than the Jews. But it says it's a hetkuf, law, order, ordinance. It also means imitate. And then it says mishpat, La Elhi Yaakov. Well, what does it mean, mishpat? Well, that word typically is just translated judgment. It's a judgment for Jacob. And it's like, wait a minute. It all depends on how you translate words. So the word mishpat is balancing of scales. Mem, shin, pei, tet. Pei, tet is a stalemate, having an even score, 20-20. Nobody has any advantage over the other guy. Everybody's balanced, perfectly balanced scales. That's mishpat. So how does the universe work? What Yahweh said is, a man's ways return on his own head. We're going to bump into that in a minute, but what he said was, he's going to give us something to do. So when we do it, it means we're listening, and it means we're obeying him and believing him. So when we do that, that's credited as righteousness, and that counts as something on our side of the scale. And there's a verse, I can't remember where it is, but basically evil weighs nothing. So no matter how much evil these other guys are doing, it doesn't outweigh us doing something that he said to do on our side of the scale. So it's going to tip the scale in our favor. And it says mishpat, another place, it says mishpat like water, zadika like a raging river. Mishpat like water. Well, water always finds its balance. So every time we do mishpat, it has to find its own level. And the way it's going to find its own level is all the stuff he gave to the bad guys, the overlords, as temporary custodians of the stuff that Israel abandoned, was to have it all flow. When I say it's land, food, provision, freedom, sanity. These evil overlords, the who? That's right. They only have temporary custodianship over Israel's blessings, while Israel doesn't do what Yahweh said. So if he commanded Hok that Israel blow trumpets and make some noise on the first day of the 7th month, I suggest you either get a shofar or roll up a piece of paper and go, or lay on the car horn or do something on the first day of the 7th month. And then the question is, when is that? Is that at the new moon or is that the full moon? And if we don't know yet which it is, do it both. And if you don't know when the first day of the 7th month is, figure it out and figure out every possibility of the 7th month and do it then. He said it's a mishpat of power by the Elohim of Yaakov. And then verse 6, Edot, witness, ayin dalet vav tav. That's the plural of ayin dalet. It's witness and testimony. It's also treasure, but he also, ayin dalet, if you look in the dictionary, it means booty or something which is robbable, able to be removed. So he made certain things, like, for example, what does a little piece of coin, a token of jewelry, It's no big deal, even if it's really valuable. But he gave, in the structure of human life, he gave us the, ooh, shiny, sparkly, this fascination. Why did the Native Americans sell Manhattan for a bag of beads, trinkets? He gave us, our mind, a fascination with shiny, sparkly trinkets, which can be robbed. So his ayandalets are things which he gave us as choice, best, treasure, bejewelment, ornamentation, which can be robbed. So he allowed his people to have the Moedim be robbed, pilfered, taken away. It all fits the definition of the word. And here's an interesting word. You'll see that it says of Joseph, but it doesn't say Joseph. Bet Yod He Vav Samik Pei. Yahusef. Well, is that just another way to spell Joseph? What does it mean? Joseph is Yod Vav Samik Pei. This is Yod He Vav. But Yod He Vav is to exist, he will. And the word Yosef or Sef Samik Pei means goblet or accumulate. He will accumulate Shmo, his name, his place. Remember, the word Shem is name, place, renown, reputation. It's your identity. He will accumulate his identity. Bet Zadi ALef Tav Vav. Zadi Aleph is get out of here. It's to exile. It's to export. It's to publish. Zadi is this flourish. It's Yeshua coming out of the grave. It's not only for Israel to be banished, but it's something, scattered seeds which then start blooming. Pictures. Alaretz across the earth. Mitzrayim, then the word shofet, there's that word lip, language, tongue, to restore to mind, clear to sanity. Lo yidati ashema. You look in the translation in the Bible, the scriptures, and it's like there was a language that he didn't know. It's like, wait a minute. Blow the shofar, which is a command. I'm going to blend verse 6 into verse 5. It's a robbed treasure which will set up the accumulation of the regaining of his identity, which had been scattered across the face of the earth in a bunch of bits and pieces. And as the language is, the word Mitzrayim is a place of oppression. Zar is rock or oppression. Mem is the place that, as this language is pulled back together, there's something about the sound of the shofar that is not known. It's a language not understood, but then Yahuwah says, I will hear. Aleph Shin Mem Ayin. So what apparently Yahuwah did was he gave Israel a language and a customs, the Sabbath day, the Moedim, and then he let them get taken away, blown to bits, scattered across the face of the earth. And then we had to endure the 2,730-year curse, the northern kingdom, besides the southern kingdom's problems. And he says, now that the time is up, it's like playing a game of hide and go seek, or like the Easter egg hunt. Go out and find the truth. Go out and find the reality. Blow the shofar. It'll all of a sudden wake us up and alert him that we're listening. And he's listening. Verse 7. These two next verses are really quite a kicker. Hey, Samik Yod Resh Vav Tav Yod. Well, Samik Yod Resh has to do with original character. Samik Resh Resh or Samik Resh Hey is stubborn and rebellious, but it also means tourist, visitor, spy, or reconnoiter. Pot, kettle, thorn, and boat. Samik Vav Resh means turn aside, like the word sorry, depart, removed, degenerate. Our stubborn rebellion of the family history has been to turn aside from the original character. Mem Samik Bet Lamed, the next word, has to do with being a porter, a stevedore, or carry the burden of suffering, pain, and load. The next word, Shechem, take to the shoulder like a bunch of guys who are going to pick up a big beam together and haul this thing. And then there's this word kaf pe yod vav. Well, pe yod is mouth. His suffix, the vav, and the prefix kaf means like his mouth. But if we'll find this word again, kaf pe yod also means to paint the eyes. To paint the eyes. To become alluring. Mem dalet vav dalet, that's David. As a beloved one, tav ayin bet resh nun hey. Well, that's ayin bet resh. That's the word Hebrew. Crossover, transition, passage. Ivrit. To go back to the original character, to reconnoiter the original character, pick it up, though it's a painful load of suffering, the task of analyzing this language, take it to the shoulder like the mouth of David in Hebrew, but to paint the eyes to make oneself alluring to your beloved and become impregnated. That's what the word Hebrew also means, to become impregnated, to cross over, or also it means to become angry. It's to completely change, like from this side of the river to that side of the river. We're going to bump into a similar thing of that verse in Isaiah here in a few minutes. Verse 8, Bet Zadi Resh, hey, well, Zadi Resh, like Mitzrayim is the word for rock. Bet Zadi Resh is difficulty, hardship, but it also is a sheepfold, inaccessible fortress, and to gather grapes. So in other words, the way you build a sheepfold is gather up rocks and build a wall, like gathering grapes and placing the pebbles. There's something about doing this, returning to the original character that was forsaken because of stubbornness and rebellion, that to put to the shoulder, to porter as a stevedore, to carry this load. What load? What we're doing with this very video, with this action of restoring the language and the Moedim, the next word, krat, kuf, resh, ALef Tav, learn to read. Answer the invitation to learn to read like the mouth of David, the Hebrew. The next word, vav aleph, and I will, het lamed zadi, you. Het lamed zadi means divide, apportion, allotment, share, make smooth or slippery. Make smooth is a synonym with the word for the language itself, shin pei hey and shin pei tav. I will ayin nun you. Aleph ayin nun kaf. Well, in Jeremiah 23:35, it says, it doesn't matter, I had a dream. What did Yahuwah say? What did he articulate? Don't say, Masa Yahweh. Oh, what's the oracle of Yahweh? What is his ayin nun hey? Read that verse, Jeremiah 23:35. Well, this is Aleph, ayin nun kaf. I will ayin nun. The word for stop and think about it is lightweight. Salah. Lift up something. And so to put your shoulder to the burden of this big, heavy thing together, Shechem, he will then turn it into this lightness. And then verse 9, Shema Ami, hear my people. And here's that word, ayin yod dalet. I will, ayin yod dalet, hey. Flashing light. I will, baka, with you, Israel, tashema li. If you will listen to me. Listen, my people, I will ayin yod dalet with you if you will listen to me. So what is that word? It's not in the dictionary. It means idolatrous festival. But then you have to go back to ayin vav dalet, and ayin dalet. Mem, ayin yod dalet, hey, means slip, totter, stumble. To slip on something slippery is a synonym with chet lamed kuf, to make something slippery, which is a synonym with the word for the language, which is slippery, smooth, shin pei hey. What I'm saying, we talked last week about how there's this poetic weaving of synonyms that you can only see in the Hebrew. He's going to take the place of rocks and make it smooth. And remember that word to escape, to flit and millet, like a chicken shooting out, laying an egg. That's his promise. That's the ALef Tav. He said he would give us flit and millet, escape when our oppressors surround us. That's what David believed. That's what we need to believe. So it doesn't matter what these guys are claiming and pounding their chest, yelling they're going to do within the next couple months. We need to hear Yahuwah's ALef Tav. Verse 10. Do not allow or cause to exist with you El Zar. Al, power, Elohim, strange, Zar, Zion Resh, and do not bow down toward foreign Gentile Nakar. And the word Nakar, Nun Kaf Resh can mean a meadow or a banquet, like, oh, look at all the nice things they offer you. But Kaf Resh, hey, can also mean battering ram. It's like, do not bow down to them when they come at you as a battering ram or a banquet of delights. Yahuwah Elohi only. That's our challenge. And he's saying the word Tav Shin Tav Het Vav He, Tav Het Vav Mem means boundary, limit, borderline. It also means bow down. He said many times, whatever you do, do not bow down to these guys. Don't let them see you afraid. Don't let them see you shake and tremble, or I'm going to do to you what I was going to do to them. What a horrible thing. He said, these guys are going to look really scary. And if you act scared, I'm going to do to you what I was going to do to them. It's like, oh, come on. That's the rules of the game. We have to have such confidence in him, his ALef Tav, his word, his promise, that we stand fearless. Verse 11. Anoki Yahweh El Heka. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Hey Mem Ayin Lamed Kaf. The one who raises you up, promotes you, success, prosper, yoked you from Egypt, Ma'aret Mitzrayim. Here's an interesting word. Hey Resh Het Bet. Peka, there's that word again, Pei Yod Kaf, your mouth, just like that we talked about the mouth of David. And I will fill it. Vav Aleph Mem Lamed Aleph, Hey Vav. So Mem Lamed Aleph is full, but Lamed Aleph is not or nothing. So I will take your nothingness and fill your mouth. But that word, your mouth, Pei Yod Kaf in the dictionary also means to paint your eyes with antimony. And I think antimony is like this blue. So you look at a girl who's got some, pretty blue eye makeup on. And it's like, why is she doing that? I thought, eye makeup was not allowed in some circles, but yet it's the same word that David painted his eyes. No, then you have to look at the word chaneni and chanchon to make yourself appealing, alluring, coquettish, graceful, charming, darling, and I will fill. But the word for Rahab is the word for Rahab, as in Joshua 2, verse 1, Rahab the harlot. But the word Rahab means wide, broad, open expanse, enlarged, roomy, spacious, vast. It's the city square or a plaza or to extend. So the same word for harlot is innkeeper. Two different translations. One says she's a harlot, the other one she's an innkeeper. The owner of a bed and breakfast. So was it a hotel or was it a brothel? Either way, the word Rahab means wide open. And Yahweh says, here's the thing about Hebrew, is that there's all this stuff with anatomy and male and female and all these you might call sexual innuendos. It's all through it. Yod-Heh Vav-Heh is his masculine apparatus, his Shem Zakar, and he says, I will, if you're wide open to me, I will fill you. Just make yourself alluring. Would you please just listen to me? The next sentence, but lo shema ani ve kuli Israel lo ava li. But my people refuse to listen to me, and my voice, Israel, has no desire for me. He's saying, open your mouth and I will fill it. Open up your heart and I will, my whole self right there. But he says, but my people don't care anything about me. So again, this is the status quo of 4,000 years of Yahweh saying, Israel is my people, and Israel alone have I nudity, made myself exposed, knowable. And Israel said, that you? Let's go after the non-deities, the non-existing things, imaginary gods and stories. And so what he says, verse 13, Psalms 81. Okay, fine. I will shin lamed het, send, eject, dismiss, divorce, send away on a mission, bet shin resh yod resh. Well, bet shin resh is flesh. Shin resh yod resh is meaty. Sinew, muscle, hard, enduring, stubborn, obduracy. Rule, reign, authority, their heart, labem, he will go for a walk. And here's an interesting word, the last word of verse 13. Bet mem vav ayin zadi vav tav yod hey mem. Whew, big word. Ayin zadi, open eyes or closed eyes, to take counsel or advice. Mem vav ayin zadi, vav tav is plural, counselors, Federal Advisory Board. The who? That's right, those guys that are calling the shots. Church council. If you don't want Yahuwah to fill your void, he will send this big, meaty, hard, dura, strong, hard, to fill your heart with counsel of closed eyes. Verse 14, if only, Lamed Vav, the word Levi is Lamed Vav Yod, if only my people would shema me, Israel, on Derek, he would walk. If only my people would listen to me, he would walk on my path, my way, my manner, my conduct. So what's the problem with Hinduism and Buddhism and Shintoism and Christianity and Judaism? Are they walking on Yahweh's path? No, he gave us the Shabbat, the Moedim, his language, his customs, blowing a shofar on the first day of the seventh month. Have you ever heard the Christian church for 2,000 years suggest we do that? No. Why? Because it's the evidence, the proof that they're not walking on his path. They're the ones that walked away for us to recognize it with our eyes and analyze it. Well, that's what's coming up. Verse 15. Like a little speck, the dot above an eye, excluded or diminished, I will, Aleph Vav, Yod Bet, Yod He Mem, their enemies, I will, Kaf Nun Yod Ayin, which means folded wings, subdue, slavery. It's the word for Canaan, humble and surrender, and Vav Ayin Lamed, yoke, raise up or promote, Zadi Resh, there's that word for rock, trouble, oppression, hardship, Zadi Resh, Yod He Mem, I will Shin Yod Bet, Yod, then that last word, Yod Dalet Yod, my arm. Like the dot above an eye, I will make their, just a little bit, just a little speck. Just, you remember what Yeshua said about faith? The faith the size of a grain of mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds. Just a little bit. I will subdue their enemies with folded wings. So you see the eagle, the lion, he will subdue our enemies with folded wings, and he will return his arm. Verse 16, Mishnah, Mem Shin Nun Aleph Yod. Well, Shin Nun Aleph means teeth, the word for teeth, but it also means number 2. It means change, variant, red, and hate. Mem is the prefix letter, so it means on the condition or to the degree that Yahweh, next word Yahuwah, is changed. This is an incredible verse, verse 16, Yod Kaf Het Shin Vav. Yahweh will, to the degree that his ALef Tav has been changed, his character, nature, identity, purpose, intention, desire, passion, his ALef Tav, his Ruach, to the degree, to the extent that it has been changed by them. He will deceive, deny, disappoint, cringe. He will estrange himself to his own people. He will appear strange and foreign and exist as smoke burning their eye. Yeah, get that Yahweh stuff out of my face. That's right, that attitude. You ever seen that attitude expressed anywhere on the internet or in your social circles? Yeah, what's that name, that language, that Jewish stuff? That's right. You find Yahweh's personal ayin dalits to be offensive, reprehensible, abhorrent, casually indifferent. Hey, check out Leviticus 26. This has been the reality for the last 2,000 years, if not 3,000 years, since the days of David. To the extent that Yahweh's ALef Tav has been changed, he will appear as, his stuff will appear as foreign strangeness and as smoke in the eyes. Verse 17, and then he who will eat or find to be edible, says it's translated cream of wheat and honey from the rock, I will satisfy you. But the word for cream, mem het lamed bet. Well, het lamed bet is milk. So the mem, the place of milk, that might be the dairy, that might be the cow. Mem het is brain or fat. Lamed bet is heart. So you could say by both brain and heart. It's not necessarily of the stomach. Mem het lamed is forgiveness or pardon or canceled debt. The word wheat, het tet hey, well, het tet and het tet aleph and het tet yod, the three letters in sequence order, means sin, sin offering, to incur guilt, to absolve of guilt, to cleanse, to find favor, to restore to relationship. Het tet vav yod means disinfected. Het tet is dig or scratch. Het tet tet nun is fault finder, meticulous, pedantic. Het tet aleph is missed the mark or sinned. So for us to say, we have inherited a bunch of stuff, customs, lies, distortions, religions, agendas. For us to dig at fault finding, yeah, you're just causing trouble. No, we're trying to find the truth. For us to dig into what he said and just scratching at the surface and seeing that there's something in the words and letters where we have collectively missed the mark, inherited false things, and then gone back to what he said. The next word, vav mem zadi vav resh. Well, that's mitzor. Well, zadi resh, that's the word rock. Like Mitzrayim, it's a place of difficulty. It's siege works. To a place of conflict. Honey, it's also the word dabash, sweet as honey. But so then you look, benefit of the dictionary, dalet bet shin tav is a humpback like a camel. Is it saying you're going to get honey from a rock? Bet shin tav. This is dalet bet shin. You analyze the words. Dalet bet bet means to make, to speak. Whisper, it's the word for bear, dalet bet. Bet shin tav is shame, disgrace, indemnity for being put to shame. Zadi vav resh. This is mem zadi vav resh, dabash. Enclosed, shut in, fashion, shape, form, image, picture, place of refuge. It's the orthography of the shape of the letters. It's the alphabet itself. The alphabet itself is a place where these 22 letters have been shut in, and it has a shape. It's a narrative story. Each letter is a fashion, shape, form, image, picture, place of refuge. What's trapped inside? And when we go back to what he said, we realize that it's as sweet as honey. It's every letter is a piece of luggage, like the humpback of a camel. And that we can, the word for metzor also means to squeeze out. And from squeezing out where he's kept the truth contained, the last word of Psalms 81, I will shin bet yod ayin kaf, aleph, Shin Bet Yod Ayin. Well, Shin Bet Ayin is the word Shavah, which is 7. Painful, satisfy, fulfill the vow, or satiate. Sweet as honey. This is the reward for those who will make it their burden to pick up his language like David. What I'm saying is that I see this chapter is not about when do you blow the shofar, but it's like the shofar, to blow the shofar is the evidence that we're listening. He knows that voice. He knows what it means. We're not going to pick up a shofar and blow it unless we read that he said to do it, which means we're analyzing his words. We're listening, and he listens to that and says, I'm ready to answer you. I'm ready to change the world for your sake soon as I see that you're listening. Why do we sit down on Shabbat? Because it's the sign that we're listening to his voice, that we've come back to the terms of the covenant as per Jeremiah 31. A reiteration story was the prodigal son. And everything changes. Yahweh's hand returns. Shin Yod Bet, verse 15. So whatever those big shots are doing, pounding their chest, the WHO, those guys making claims, appealing to the United Nations to get military police authority to do terrible things to people, means nothing. So there's this other concept. I saw something that somebody sent where a guy was saying, what is the significance of Yeshua cursing the fig tree? There's a story in the gospel where Yeshua, they're going to Jerusalem. There's a fig tree. It had leaves, but there was no fruit. He cursed it, and they came back. The thing was dead, and it's like, whoa, hey. But while they were in Jerusalem, the Pharisees were giving him a hassle, and he's saying, okay, the fig tree is a model of Israel, and the Pharisees were the rulers, and it's a proof that they had no fruit, so he condemned them, and he's going to give the kingdom to the Gentiles, to the church, really. So did he forsake Israel because of the Pharisees? No. It was all according to the terms of the covenant, Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28. Did he replace Israel with the church, with the Goyim, and then say, listen, I'm going to kick around Israel and beat them up and punish them and chastise them because they wouldn't listen to me, but now I'm going to replace them with a people that doesn't have to listen to me? If that was the case, it's not the whole case. It's not the end of the matter, because it's always been when Israel returns to listen to my voice, then I'm going to give everything back. So if the story goes that he temporarily gave the overlords custodians of what he gave to Israel, all the blessings, and they don't have to listen to his voice because they're not his people, the Nachar, the Gentiles, the Goyim, it's not an excuse for us to say there is no more chok, law, command, zadi, vav, mitzvot, erot. It's all a temporary occasion of convoluted Israel having its wings clipped. So there's this one interesting word which is spelled Yod, Het, Yod, Shin. And the in Psalms 81:16, it's Kaf, Het, Shin, where it says Yahweh will make himself estranged to them, deceive, deny, disappoint, and cringe. Because Israel didn't want to listen to his voice, didn't want to have any desire. That word desire is Aleph Bet Hey. That word Aleph Bet is father, but it's also springtime is Aviv, so it's the verdure of youth. It's like they have this passion of young heart in love. Because Israel could give a rat's behind to him, and anything he had to say, he said, okay, I'm going to make myself detestable like smoke in your eyes. So looking at that word a little closer, this is page 4 of the notes. So you, as I suggested, look at other prefixes and suffixes. Kav, het, shin, deceive, deny, disappoint, lie, declare false. Mem, het, shin, to make perceptible, concrete form, or illustrated. So we are under the illusion of a reality, which isn't a reality, established by doctrine, established by mandate. somebody told us this is the reality for the last 2,000 years, and yet it's not. And so then you get whole nother matter. A guy named Bart Ehrman put together this lecture about when did Jesus become God. There was somebody else that Sarah Perry sent me. I forget the guy's name. Jesus didn't necessarily think of himself as God, nor did his disciples think of him as God. That's something that evolved and certainly became the matter as of the Council of Nicaea. But if he didn't become God or think of himself as God, was he then before the foundation of the world? According to Bart Ehrman, that's something which was an evolved doctrine. And to go back and look at that, we could talk about that some other time. But the question is, why do we believe what we believe? Why do we believe what we believe? Something that we think is perceptible with a concrete form might just be an illustration of a deception. Yahweh says, I am the ALef Tav. I am the beginning and the end. And then in the book of Revelation, Yeshua claims to have that. Oh, so he's God. Is that necessarily true? Yeah, that's right. We're being meticulous about the details. I'm not denying the significance of Yeshua. I'm saying to take up the burden of looking at every little thing and seeing what is the truth, what is the reality, who is Israel, and what is the ALef Tav of Yahuwah that Israel is supposed to believe, stand on, and count on is not necessarily what looks like today's Judaism or Christianity, because today's Christianity with its 50,000 plus denominations, plus the Orthodox, plus the Catholic, plus the various Protestants, who knows what the reality is supposed to be? It's in the 22 letters of the ALef Tav. He said of Israel, I will not ever forsake you, but only with mishpat, balancing of scales, will I chastise you, punish you. In other words, the way the universe is built is a man's way is returned on his own head. And so if you tell lies and do evil, then horrible things are going to happen to you having to do with lies and evil. And so here's another thing, use of the dictionary. It said when I was looking up memchetchin, that word is used in Isaiah 28:16. Now, we talked about Isaiah 28 before. I'm just going to look at a few verses, but there's something very interesting there. He said, ha, hey, mem, aleph, mem, yod, nun. The believer, lo, yahish, yod, het, yod, shin. Well, het, yod, shin means quick, hurry, feeling, or sensation. So it's translated, let the believer not expect it soon. It's like, really? Is that what it means? Ha'amin literally means the believer, but aleph mem nun, amen, is also the one who is faithful, skilled, and trained. So if you look up the word for het yod shin, yod het shin hey, lamed het shin, nun het shin, nachash, that's the snake, copper, divination, whisper, incantation, lamed het shin. Het vav shin means to feel, pain, hasten, sensual, censor, sensitive, hesitant, care for, feeling or sensation. Is he saying that the one who believes, the aleph mem nun, the one who is skilled and trained in what? Well, Aleph is a prefix letter meaning I will, I am. Mem nun is, remember, the two letters down at the bottom of taking it to heart. And if you read the alphabetic letter sequence, Kaf Lamed having to do with the Torah and the instructions to repeat and rehearse. And Mem nun is you take it to heart and you make it your own so that you become nun, this unto Zadi, unto Resh, this new type of person, Achad with the ALef Tav. The one who makes it his business, his identity. Lo ichish, not feeling pain, not quick hurry, not desperate, not sensory. The same word for lover and the word for fearful are derivatives, adding another letter to that. So what does this mean? Well, you go back. This is the 2 pages I still have yet to send to you, Kurt. Isaiah 28:14 through 21 and then verse 29. We'll go through these here real quick. We've got just a few minutes. Verse 14. And I'm saying why I jumped from Psalms 81 to Isaiah 28 is because the dictionary mentioned that this is where that same word was found. That's in verse 16 of Psalms 81. Lachan Shema Debar Yahweh. Therefore, listen to what the word that Yahweh stipulated. Anashi Latzon Mishle Ha'am Hazah Asher in Jerusalem. Therefore, listen to Yahweh's words. The man who commands rulership over the people who still live in Jerusalem. Well, that's men who command. Those are men who are offering mandates. Ki amertam, they are saying, Kratnu, we have written Brit et Mot, a covenant with death. Ve'am Sheol, and with the grave. Ashinu, we are doing it. Chazah, behold, a vision, a prophetic vision. Shin Yod Tet, a stray rover rambler. Shin Vav Tet Pei, flowing swift. Ki Eber Lo Yod Bet Vav Aleph Nun Vav. We have a covenant with death and with the grave. We have gotten this vision of the future that even if a flowing river were to come and inundate, it will not enter in, because our place of deception, falsehood, Kaf, Zion, Bet, like flowing, then the next word, Mem, Het, Samik, Nun, Vav, Chosen, our castle, fortified strong, and Bet, Shinku fresh, that's the word, sucker, lies, swindle, defraud, deception, Nun, Samik, Tav, Resh, Nun, Vav, is our secret hiding place. So we wonder why these guys that are mandating untruths, the who, yeah, that's right, those guys that are lying about what is disease, what is profitable, what is going on in the news, what their intentions are. It's all a bunch of lies. Why are they lying? Why do we hear them lying and we can't do anything about it? Because they have a covenant with death whereby they must lie. They have to lie. That's their covenant with death in the grave. And if they lie, they are promised by some vision of prophecy that they'll be safe when trouble happens. We find it so frustrating. Oh, but no, Yahweh says to us, don't have anything to do with lies and deception. Anybody who makes and perpetuates falsehood, he says in the book of Revelation, has no place in my kingdom. But yet, when we see these other guys that are the custodian overlords, do nothing but. Why? Because they must. They have a covenant with death and the grave. Okay, that gives explanation. Verse 16, therefore, so declares Adonai Yahweh. Adon means I am the judge, I make the call. Behold, here am I. Yod Samek Dalet, secret foundation, Betzion. Well, Betsy is swampy marsh and sludge. How's a foundation of sludge? Eben, Bechen, Panat, Ikur, Mossad, Ha, Mem, Aleph, Mem, Yod, Nen. There's this phrase, Lo Ichish. This is the phrase, verse 16, Isaiah 28. He said, therefore, I'm the judge. Here am I. Guess what I've made? I've made a secret foundation like a swampy marsh. They're trusting in something, but the stone distinguished like a watchtower, Penun Tav, I'm going kind of quickly here, vacate, bachelor, turn the court. He's turning everything around. Yod Kufresh Tav, precious dear, costly, the founded, established, institutional, the believer, no sensory feeling. Don't worry, it's irrational. Verse 17. Vav Shin Mem Tav, I will place the renown of Mishpat, Lako, as the line, but that same word Lamed Kaf Vav means beat beating, striking, scourge, defective, blemish, your own way is coming back on your head. That's the mishpat. And zadakah lama shakalat, and righteousness, the victory of righteousness, weigh, balance, assess, examine, negotiate, meter. That's the word shakal, where we get the word shekel, and it will yod, ayin, hey, sweep away, barad, trample, memchet, samik, the refuge of falsehood, and the secret hidden cover. The waters will sheen, tet, pay, swift flowing current. It's a picture of a tsunami. What he's saying is these guys that he's allowing the temporary overlord custodianship over the world because Israel had turned it back on listening to Yahweh's words, hearing his voice. They didn't want anything to do with him. That's what we've inherited. When we start listening to Yahweh's voice, Yahweh's going to send a tsunami to wash these guys away. Their foundation is in a swamp, and what Yahweh has built is that a man's way is returned upon his own head. And when they say we have made a covenant with death and the grave, and deception is our tool, so Yahweh says, you guys are totally deceived. Why would a guy wear a skull and a pentagram? Why would he choose the losing side? Because they're lied to. Okay, verse 18. Covering atonement, your covenant with death, and your vision of the future with the grave will not stand. Shin Vav Tet is flogged or scourged with a flowing current because Yod Ayin Bet Resh, well, that's the word Hebrew, transfer, remove, past tense, the being of them, Lamed Mem Resh Mem Samik. Well, Resh Mem Samik means trampled. Resh Mem Shin, a related word, means reptiles. They're going to be trampled like reptiles. The reptilians, the overlord. Verse 19. Mem Dalet Yod. Every time at the sufficiency, measure, index, attribute, character, Hebrew, Ayin Bet Resh Vav. He will grasp ALef Tav Kaf Mem with you for baboker, that's morning by morning. It also means to open up and investigate. Yod Ayin Bet Resh, he will cross over by Yom, by Lila, day by day and by night, and exist only, that's Resh Kuf, we talked about that word before, spit, thin, nothing else. Zion Vav Ayin Hey, terror, horror, trembling, shudder. Habin Samoa, or like the island of Samoa, it means listening. Such terror is going to happen that everybody's going to say, we can't stand hearing, or how do you hear? In other words, you could say, how do we get Yahweh to hear us? How do we hear him? Hearing will become the only matter worth anything, which is what we're talking about doing right now. What we're doing is exercising the process of how do you hear Yahweh's voice? We just got a couple more verses here. Verse 20, Ki Kuf Zadi Bet, the harvest. Hey Mem Zadi Ayin is the dividing line. Well, how do you have a dividing line on harvest? It brings back to mind Yeshua talking about the harvest where you separate sheep from goats, wheat from tares. So there's something about a dividing line at the harvest. The next word, Mem Hey Shin Tet Resh Ayin, stretch, extend, point directly at, break out, malignant tumor. Vav, this is a difficult sentence. Vav Hey Mem Samik Kaf Hey. Well, the word Samik Kaf Hey is suka, listening, look, see, a mixed drink, a woven together perspective. It's also a covering, a mask, covert and screened. Then the next word, Zadi Resh Hey, sorrow, grief. The last word in verse 20, Kaf Hey Tav Kaf Nun Samik. Bring it home. Begin, enter, arrive. Signal flag lifted. Nun Samik. So is this saying the trouble begins when they mandate this mask and try to point directly at separating the sheep from the goats? Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening right here in 2022, month of February? Kind of looks like it. Just looking. Words as pictures, beads on a chain. What is it? What does the necklace look like? This is the way You read the Hebrew. It's not the dictionary translation of the words. Put the words together. What does it look like? Put the letters together. What's the word look like? Verse 21. So thus, like a mountain, kahar paritzim, or the word paritzim, where we get the word pirates, breakout, violent destruction, no restraint, insolent. He will stand up, Yahweh, like Emek, valley, Emek, deep, profound study. When you deeply, profoundly study the depth of these things, that's where he's found. And he's going to stand up, and then Bet, Gimel, Bet, Ayin, Vav, Nun. It says in the valley of Gabon, that's a hill of heights, the potential Vav, Resh, Gimel, Zion, quiver, quake, seismic, agitate, anger. La Ashot, Ma Asheo, Zar, like the strange deeds, Ma'asho, that's the same word being used 2 or 3 times. It's like the strange things that they're doing, serving, so they will be served a banquet. The people that are making death and Sheol and the covenant of with deception will be given a banquet of terror and deception. A man's way returned on his own head. Treated as a stranger, recognized, ascertained to be foreign. So here's the point. Yahweh said to do certain things, to be his people. It's in the ALef Tav. He's the ALef Tav. When we learn his language, learn his customs of his kingdom, learn his ways, learn his festivals, learn his chok and mishvat, which some people have said are not ours because we're goyim, we're nachar, we're Gentiles, we have nothing to do. The Jews are lying if they're telling us that we can't, as Ephraim, as the northern kingdom, come back to the covenant with Israel. If the Jews won't allow the 10 tribes to come home to the covenant, then they're infidels themselves. It's not about the Jews of rabbinical Judaism. It's about the regathering of the 12 tribes to come back to the Brit of righteousness with Yahuwah, the eternal covenant. We don't need the voice of any particular authority translating words and allowing us into their corporate structures. It's not about Christianity or Judaism. It's about coming back to the words of Yahuwah, because as one who is an obedient servant, the word obed, if you have a strange deity and strange customs and strange languages, you will be treated as a stranger. The only way to come back to Yahuwah, him personally, which is what the ALef Tav is, his signature expression of in these 22 letters. So as we study what that is, it's studying him and how to be achad with his ruach, his mind, his heart, his will, his plan. And so we have to expect him to take out the people he said he'd take out when the time comes that we come back to him. And then jumping ahead to verse 29, Gamzat ma'am Yahweh Zavot also heaped up this from the place or for the people of Yahweh Zavot. Each letter stabbed in like a knife handle in position. He will Zadi Aleph Hey export or publish HaPaleo, the wonderful, marvelous Etzah, advisor, counsel of the eyes open, Hagidol, the festooned array of grandeur, and the last word, verse 29, Isaiah 28, Tavav Shin Yod Hey, which means advice, wisdom, philosophy, insight, or metaphysics. This is the verse. The reason I'm bringing this up is it's translated, he has placed in Zion a stone, a precious cornerstone. Those who trust in it will not feel pain, or let the believer not expect it soon. It's like, what? And that verse was quoted in Peter in the New Testament. It's like, oh, that's Jesus. And it's like, what? I talked about this quite some time ago. I left out 8 verses there, just so you know, between 22 and 28. We talked about that on another occasion, the parable of the farmer that could be read a whole different way with it reads as a farmer. On one hand, you look at the verses in the words in Hebrew, and it's a whole nother story. But we talked about that on a previous video. What I'm saying is, The ALef Tav is to know who he is and what his plan is. And if we trust that, then we should not be shaken, though the words that we hear these people claiming they're going to do is very disturbing. But what's more disturbing is to hear that Yahweh is going to rage and shake the earth and shake these guys out of their position. It was a temporary overlord custodianship because Israel refused to listen to Yahweh's words. And the only way to hear Yahweh's words is to go back to the Hebrew like David, which is what Psalms 81 is talking about. Okay, open it back up to you guys. We're at 2 hours here. Does anybody have anything they want to add or contribute? Perspective, insight, disagreement, whatever you want.
Of, just repeating words and stuff like that. And that's kind of just reminded me of Romans 12:2, not to be transformed. 8:2, I think it is. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I think a lot of us have heard that before, but it is so true. That is, the word does work. Like if you're suffering from any kind of, mental illness or depression or anxiety or stress or, whatever's going on in life, it's repeating what the word says. Even in English, it has impact and power to repeat the words of Yah and have that on your mind at all times. So when you have a thought that is difficult or, contrary to what the scriptures say, then you have to exchange that thought for Yah's word. And you take, if you have doubts or you think that Yah doesn't love you or whatever it is, you quote the word, the scriptures, and what it says about us and what it says about him and his love for us and what he's done for us. And that will change your life if you can change your words, because words are just thought.
Exactly. It's kind of like, it's like inside your mind. Like I said, the idea of psychology as a science, analyzing how humans are constructed and what's going on and how do you have an effect, behavioral, that's a pretty new science. And the way it works is kind of like there's a big table and you get to pick things up and stick them inside your bag to make them your own. And it's like, oh, I'm having a certain thought. You don't have to have that thought. Put the thought back and pick up a different thought. Make that your own. That's memnoon. I will, that's the determination of the self, which is the Aleph. And what you harbor within as memnoon, if you're having the wrong thoughts. Perfect statement there, Greg. Exchange your thoughts for the thoughts that he told us to have, memnoon. That he kaf lamed, that he taught us by what's written. Kaf, lines of instruction, lamed, teach and learn, rehearse, mem, take it within you, and then noon, making it your own as you contemplate, as you harbor, and if you notice that you have some thoughts within you which are bad, inappropriate, harmful, destructive, you don't want them anymore, put them back on the table, get rid of them, and take his thoughts. You have the ability to do that as a human, though you might not have been told that you can do that. What people tell others in school or culturally is not necessarily true and not necessarily in your best interest. But by studying these things, it gives you a whole different paradigm of reality. Like I said, that one phrase, we have the pretense or the illusion of reality, which is actually just a construct of various doctrines. Not necessarily true at all, not necessarily a reality, but as long as we hold it on our deathbed, you might say we will find out what's true and what's not. But right now, we still have a chance to change things. Anybody else want to say anything?
How are you spelling ALef Tav phonetically in English?
I would just write phonetically ET. I'd write it probably as AT. The Sefer people write it ETH, but I wouldn't use the TH. I'd just say ET. And just as a joke, ET is the E period T period stands for the extraterrestrial, because the movie ET by Spielberg was kind of a messianic model. kind of the Jesus character.
Okay, but let's just say I want to title the video ALef Tav. If I put ET up there, people won't get it.
Just put, you could put ET ALef Tav or something, or you just write ALef Tav, Aleph-Tav.
Are you ALEF or
Yeah,
ALPH or?
I'd write ALEF-TAV. And I know some people express the Tav as a TAW or TAU, not TAV, because the V is a late expression of the letter Wa or Vav. Like in the song, the Vav man, well, it should be the Wow man. It's like, yeah, there's, every one of these things is a matter of meticulous analysis. It's not a matter of true or false.
Well.
Anyway, does anybody else have anything they want to throw into this before we're at the end of the moment?
Yes, I would add, do you hear me?
Yes.
Keelan,
Okay.
holy
I have it.
cow, she's alive.
Actually, I live in the forest, so when there's too much snow, I don't have Wi-Fi, too much wind, so today I can connect. It's awesome. But I always listen on YouTube anyway. Thanks for posting all this on YouTube, Kurt. It's great. Just to go along with what you were saying with Greg about the mem noon being us, to ponder upon the scriptures and repent, change our way of thinking. I was pondering upon Luke 17 when he says the kingdom of God is not, I go from French to English, but it's not something that we could see, but it won't be said, see, it's here or it's there. The kingdom of God, it's not going to be like that. It's really what you're going to believe inside of you. And that's the memnoon. And I believe that, I've heard many times about this small seed of mustard, and people focus how little the faith is. I don't believe it's about the size. I believe he was saying it has nothing to do with the size. It has to do with the kind of. And this is exactly what we're doing with this Paleo Hebrew. We're cleaning our faith to know the right stuff, to believe the right stuff. And I believe it's very important in our days. I do talk to many people, and I like to ask them when they say, "Oh, about God," whatever they would say. I would say, "Which God do you believe?" And everybody always answer, "Oh, they're all the same." I say, "No. Tell me about the God you believe." And I think really this is the time and the hour for us to clean and make sure what we believe is aligned with the Aleph Tav. It's all written through the Aleph Tav. When I started to learn Paleo Hebrew, it really opened my eyes on this world, the darkness of the world. I mean, who was in control? And it was not a real democracy and all. And I think what's going on right now around the world, it's absolutely wonderful, because people's eyes are being opened now. It's not that they were not that evil before. They were, but we couldn't see it. And I see that exactly like Pharaoh, remember? When he said, okay, we won't provide for the straw anymore. So they could realize how evil this guy was. And I think this is what's going on. I'm having conversation with neighbors right now, and people that sadly they went for the jab, but now their eyes are being opened with what's going on here in Ottawa. I'm only an hour drive away from Ottawa. And they realize that the medias are lying, the prime minister is lying. So this is really a wonderful time. And I believe that, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that the reason why Yahuwah permits our eyes to see what's going on really in this world, that's because the Paleo Hebrew has been reopened, and there's people that are hungry and want it and desire it. So everything that is going on right now, it's just beautiful. Their plan was there. They've been killing us with vaccines for hundreds of years. They've been killing us by so many ways for so long, but now people see it. So I think it's a wonderful, gracious time. It's the mercy of Yahweh, and it's a beautiful time to speak out to people. And to me, I can share to many people simply that we lost our identity, who we were, and that once we had made a covenant with the Creator, and because our forefather walked away, and then I give them the curse that He gave to us, and that we are in it, and now it's time for us to desire not another government, but the kingdom of Yahweh on this earth. And I see the heart of the people, and many people are hungry for this. I think it's exciting what we're living right now. The time is absolutely beautiful. There's nothing to be afraid. These guys are afraid. They know what's going on now, and they're being exposed. That's beautiful.
You know, it could be, you know, years ago we were saying, he said that when we turned back to listen to him, that he would rattle the world. He would dislodge
Right.
the people. And it's like, well, but nothing happened. All of a sudden, something's happening. And like you say, what's happening right now, where these guys sitting in their high chairs could be seismically disturbed because we're looking at his words.
I believe it is. They've been killing us for years through the food, the chemicals, the big pharma, which is no science. It's just pure witchcraft. So
Absolutely.
it's just, I believe it's because we're looking at those words, and Yahweh is faithful. So He opens the eyes of Ephraim. I think it's a wonderful, beautiful time.
Yeah, that's really amazing. We have no idea what effect doing this for the last 20 years has actually had.